Hi, my name is Chad Wakabayashi, and this is my managerial interview. So my interviewee was Eric Koyanagi, and so a little bit about his background. He works for the Naval Underwater Warfare Center, and so what they do is that they test ships and submarines and engineer solutions and provide feedback as to how they can be better. He's been at the role for 19 years, and his position is the head of fleet analysis. So a little bit about the hierarchy of his organization. It starts at the top with the Department of Defense, narrows down to the Pacific Division, and then narrows down even further to his branch in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Personally, he oversees 20 employees, which are mostly engineers, and 6 outside contractors. Primarily, his managerial duties include supervision, training, evaluation, and outside contracting and outsourcing. He described his management style as more of a facilitator. He said that his employees that have been there for a long time are really knowledgeable, so that's not really an issue. And most of the newcomers are trained on the job by the people on the floor, so he doesn't have to do much of that either. And so his role is really just to give the engineers the time and resources that they need in order to do their job more effectively and more efficiently. So I asked him how he decides when and to whom to delegate tasks to. He says that really the competent workers show themselves in the quality of their work, and so he's relied on a deputy system to make decisions and to make personnel decisions. And so he's had 2 people on his side, and together he said that they kind of form a group management style. So I asked him about his team environment, whether it's more of a team environment or an individualistic environment. He described it as a team due to the nature of the product or of the service that they provide, as the engineers are trained on the job, so where their skills and their knowledge becomes pretty specialized, so it creates a reliance on each other in order to get the whole task done on time. Also, motivation in times of a tight deadline or a big project. He said that engineers are mostly self-starters by nature, so they're not really time card oriented, so where it's not clock in, clock out. It's you leave when the job's done and when you're doing your part to move the team forward. And also, as a secondary motivator, as a kind of a fail-safe, he does perform evaluations that impact their pay and their bonuses. Also, he says one thing that motivates his employees is setting the standard himself. So when there is late hours that need to be done, he's there as well. And so him just being there just kind of sends a message to the younger employees that, hey, maybe I need to be here too if the boss is here. And also, since he's created that environment, the veteran employees kind of have influence over the younger employees as to, hey, you need to be here in order to get the job done on time. I also asked him about diversity. With Hawaii being a pretty racially diverse place, I asked him about some of the other ways that his workplace is diverse. And so one way that he described was by gender, and that women have been increasingly played a bigger part in engineering, and that they've been really trustworthy confidants. In fact, the 2 deputies that I mentioned earlier are actually women. Also, his workplace is diverse background-wise, as some of his employees are ex-military, and so they have that knowledge as to the practical uses of their information, and they also have the non-military, straight out of school engineers. I asked him about his hiring and personnel decisions and how much say he has into that. He said that the overall list of candidates are given to him by the government, and that he really narrows down the list based on KSA, which are the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities. So basically just your basic resume things, and just experience that he thinks will help them on their job. But he said really the most important factor when he narrows down his candidates is he kind of asks weird questions in the interviews in order to get a feel of what they're really like, in order to throw the interviewees off their interview face game. So he'll ask them like, what's their favorite TV show in order to gauge what their actual interests are. If it's something like MacGyver or something engineering related, then he knows that their true passion is engineering and problem solving mechanically. So the three biggest takeaways from my interview with Eric is that a big part of management is putting your employees in a position to succeed rather than, being on top and exercising your power. Secondly, that a team environment that has the same goals and the same expectations, they tend to hold each other accountable, as I mentioned with the veteran employees holding the younger employees accountable to stay late. And finally, I learned that having a person that is a fit with the people rather than having the technical qualifications, and having that person and them having a willingness to learn is much more important than any of the technical skills that they could possess.